Hello everybody, welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel, In Flight Ireland. And today I'm doing something a little bit different than what I usually do. I am going to be going over an experience I had a few months ago at Rolls Royce. So originally, my school sent out an email effectively asking if anyone was interested doing work experience at Rolls Royce. Obviously, I jumped at the opportunity, and it was a very limited number of people that got in. And I was really fortunate to be one of the lucky people who got to go and do the work experience at Rolls Royce. Anyway, so on the first day, I went to a museum, and I think I said in a couple of videos that I'd show these photographs off that I took in the museum in a video, just to kind of show off what I did at Rolls Royce. I have a few stories as well I can tell you, and I could talk you through some of the engines and maybe give you a little bit of background information if I know anything about it. Anyway, yeah, I'd say it was a really good opportunity to do it. I'll remember it probably for a very long time. I really enjoyed it. It made me even want to work there for a while, but I think flying the planes is where I'm at, to be honest. But if maybe that doesn't go so well, it's probably my backup. If I'm not flying them. Right, so at the museum we were taken through by I'm not entirely sure what his job was. He worked at Rolls Royce for a very long time, this man. I can't remember his name now, but he's a very nice man. And he took us through many of the exhibits at the museum, as I'll show you now. You'll probably see him in a couple of the photos. Anyway, so this was the first thing we saw when we walked in. The Honourable C.S. Rolls, one of the co-founders of Rolls Royce. I don't know a lot about him, other than that this was one of the statues that were on display in the museum. And there are a fair amount of things like this in the museum, just kind of statues and remembrance, kind of paying homage to the founders. And I believe there's one of Sir Henry Royce as well, one of the other co-founders. It might be in one of the other images. So if you stick around for that, obviously I said that I don't really know a lot about the early history of Rolls Royce. I kind of know more about their early 60s, late 70s upwards, that kind of history from Rolls Royce. Don't really know. I mean, I know the Merlin engine, stuff like that, but from the 40s, but not other than that, not really much else. And obviously not a huge amount on the Rolls Royce cars either, but there might be something to do with that, because obviously that's where they started. So, looking at this image here, it's not exactly aviation related, but I thought it was a really interesting piece of history. The typewriter that was there on that table, that is there on that table. I'm saying past tense. So I'm assuming that typewriter was probably a historical item at Rolls Royce. Once again, I'm not entirely sure the history behind it, but I really thought it was an interesting item, and yeah, I took a photo of it. If you want to come to this museum, I'm fairly sure it's open to the public. I'm not entirely sure, but if you want to see it, obviously you can come to Rolls Royce in Derby. The reason I got to go and do this was because I live in the general area. I live in Derby, as some of you probably can presume, considering I fly out of East Midlands Airport or talk about East Midlands Airport in almost every video. So yeah, and by the way, Microsoft Flight Simulator 737 video coming out shortly. I'm just still learning it, writing some checklists, doing all that for you. So yeah, definitely coming up. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, so here we have Sir Henry Royce. So Sir Henry Royce along with Rolls, was one of the co-founders, and he died in 1933, as you can see there, before the Second World War. So we didn't get to see the Merlin engine or anything like that. He mainly saw Rolls-Royce in a car capacity, rather than an aircraft, obviously. They did work on aircraft pre-World War II, hence why they were given the Merlin contract by the UK government. But effectively, after or during World War II, beg your pardon, the company was mainly run by Rolls and obviously the rest of the business team. as I learnt when I was there, there's not, once again, there's not really a lot I know about him, but I urge you to do your research or go down to the museum, as I already stated before, because there'll be someone there, I'm sure, willing to probably give you a tour like they did with me. Um, yeah, it was a really awesome experience, as I've already said. And yeah, do some research on those two people. I don't know a lot, but if you're interested, do it. But yeah, the more aviation stuff coming up now, because obviously we haven't really had a lot of stuff on aviation yet. But yeah, okay, next image should be aviation, hopefully. I'm not entirely sure. I've just got this all on a big PowerPoint. I'm just talking through the PowerPoint. Well, it's not aviation related, but it is vehicle. So I believe that was an engine out of one of the first Rolls Royce cars. And if I can remember correctly, they did used to have two extremely rare Rolls Royce cars out the front of the museum. However, they'd just been taken out and brought to another museum as we got there. So that was unfortunate, but effectively, I believe the layout of the museum when I went was it kind of started off with the cars and kind of the miscellaneous items, and then it kind of went up in the years. So as you go here, it's kind of a history of Rolls Royce. So obviously it starts off, the cars. It talking about the people, a typewriter, and obviously I think there's some sort of calculator apparatus or something like one of them really old calculators. I'm pretty sure there. But yeah, if you kind of stick on, or maybe if you want to skip through the video, maybe, you might see, I know there's an RB211 here somewhere. If you don't know, I believe that went on the TriStar Lockheed L1011. So if you're interested in that, then yeah, you can go and have a look for that image. I also believe I have I think the RB211, I think it went on the Jumbo as well, or the 757 and stuff like that. Or it might be the RB199, I can't quite remember. Anyway, I think the RB199 might have gone on the 737. Not entirely sure. Anyway, yeah, if you wanna see that, stick around. And there's a few good plane models as well. There is an L1011 in here, A340, I believe, 787, 777. There is an XWB in the video as well at some point. And the new experimental Ultrafan. I managed to get into the test bed during the test, so I have a photo of the test going on as well. Obviously not stood next to the engine during a test, that's not going to work very well. But there's a model of the Ultrafan in the museum, and then there's also an image of the Ultrafan, like I'm stood, like kind of looking up at it in the test bed. So yeah, stick around for that if you want to see it. So here we have the Burroughs calculator, which I believe is one of the really original calculators. Next, with the little, I don't know if you see the little leather pouch to the left of it with the Rolls Royce kind of marking on it. So that I believe this was a original like architect, or I don't know, accountant maybe, kind of set up. So they'd have like the pencil in the pouch, and then obviously they have the calculator there, and it's probably someone doing calculations, maybe maybe the person who designed the Spitfire, maybe not the Spitfire, sorry, the Merlin engine, maybe might have used the that calculator, or it says 1971, so maybe not. But the RB211, stuff like that, because back then they didn't design anything on computers, and it was all by hand. And I also believe we actually have some, I don't know whether it's like kind of blueprints. So if you can hear banging, there's fireworks going on outside. But yeah, there's like blueprints and stuff like that. I think you might be able to see it behind it there. There's some blueprints. I think there might be another photo there. Maybe it might be the next one. Who knows? But yeah, really cool item. Burroughs calculator. It's what we had before. You have your Casio class whizzes and all your calculators like that. These are old school, and to be honest, they're probably the workhorse of the company, or workhorse of the whole aviation sector. Boeing probably had one. McDonnell Douglas. All these at this time. It might have not been McDonnell Douglas yet. I don't know. I don't know whether they'd merged yet. But anyway, yeah, blueprints coming up. Okay, so here we have it. The blueprints I was talking about, and that little pouch kind of probably contained pencils and kind of drawing equipment and stuff like that. And they obviously did it on that. You can see there. It's just like a grid of paper. They probably stuck it all together. Because I remember him saying it. The guy who's bringing us around, saying that they effectively they did one big sheet, like that. So I don't know whether that's one of the ones where they stuck them all together, or it's one of the ones where they fold them up. I think it might be one of the folded ones, because they look like fold creases rather than being stuck together. But anyway, yeah, so they use them to like do their blueprints and stuff like that. If you can make it out, I believe their blueprints for the RB211. Not entirely sure, but yeah, we'll probably see that engine coming up very soon. Anyway, yeah, very interesting. Very interesting stuff. How things progress. I mean, in such a short span of time, it was about 20 years, I think, between the L1011 and then the 777, or was it the A3? I'm not entirely sure. I think the A330 was designed by the computer. But yeah, obviously I'm not talking about engines, but the aviation sector as a whole. In that 20 years from 1970s to 1990s, the A330, the 777, 747-400s, they're all designed on computers. And the difference between it now is big. Here we have the legendary piece itself, the Merlin engine, that is designed to go on the Spitfire. Now, something interesting about this specific engine, down at East Midlands Airport, which I feel like I've said about 50 times this video, Rolls Royce own their own Spitfire, and this is the engine from that Spitfire, because I believe at this point, can you see it's kind of on wheels? They kind of just wheeled it in intermittently while they were working on the rest of the aircraft, because obviously there's no point keeping it in a cold hangar if they can keep it in a nice, warm museum. So I'm really lucky to have this here when I was there. But they have a Merlin engine in the museum, and obviously really legendary, engine. It was, I mean, arguably the best engine, obviously prop engine of the war. Obviously you had your Me-262 engines and all them that Germans made, but as a workhorse engine, so many were produced. It put Rolls Royce on the map in aviation effectively. Legendary engine. I know, especially like SpaceX and stuff like that. They've paid homage to the Merlin engine. They've named their rocket that's destined to go to Mars, off the Merlin. Not the rocket engines, obviously. The rocket's Starship, I believe. Yeah, I believe. I know I'm a bit nerdy about that as well, but that's for a different video. Yeah, they named the rockets off the Starship off of the Merlin engine. Its legacy is huge, and obviously as a history buff as well, I can appreciate the impact that had on the war. The RAF were on the brink of defeat, and Rolls Royce's impact on the war was, if it wasn't for Rolls Royce, I don't really think UK would have been able to stay in. Obviously there probably would have been other, manufacturers, but whether they could produce like Rolls Royce could, I don't know. The quality and the production speed they had, but I can't remember what the figures are, but they were producing so many of them, so yeah, on to the next image. I'm pretty sure this one's exciting as well. Welcome to the jet age, well, especially the airliner jet age. The Neen engine was an engine that was built to go on the de Havilland Comet. I think you can see in the background there the Comet, which was the first British jet airliner, or the first jet airliner in general. I believe the T124154 followed afterwards. They were both disasters in their own rights, but they were the first. The Americans were the only ones to make one that worked and didn't crash. The de Havilland Comet had its issues. That is also a topic for another video. I am actually considering maybe making some videos like that, just kind of going over certain aircraft and the history of them and stuff like that. I think it could be pretty awesome. Just something to do. But yeah, the Neen engine, I don't know how you say Neen engine, was the engine that was designed to go on the de Havilland Comet jet airliner, which was a pretty stunning looking airliner. Like you can't deny it. Like that, I really loved the era of having the engines in the wings. It just looked so flush, kind of like Concorde. I love the big engines on the wings, right? But it just looks like it's just hovering. You know what I mean? When you see a Concorde landing right from the front, right? It doesn't look like anything's keeping it up. And same with the Comet. It's really, really, really innovative engine, for an innovative aircraft, and from an innovative company. What more can I say? I mean, obviously this sounds like I'm kind of like doing an advertisement for Rolls Royce or something. I'm doing this completely off my own back. You know, it was they put me up. They put me up for a week basically. Um, a few months ago, and I am really grateful for it. So the least I could do is kind of shoot them a little video. I guess I don't really know, but I'm kind of doing this for my own sake as well, because I want some people to talk to, like-minded people to talk to about this. Because like I went there as a kind of an aviation geek. The people with me probably didn't really have any interest in aviation in any way, but you know, I just thought it was really, really awesome experience. So yeah, let's go on to the next one. Here we have an interesting aircraft, the Vickers Valiant, and the engine that went in it. The Vickers Valiant really had very limited service in the RAF. It was swiftly and promptly really, I don't know, it wasn't, replace isn't the right word, because it kind of came after the Vulcan and the Victor. Victor, I can't remember the name of that aircraft for the life of me. But yeah, it was a plane. It was only used for 10 years, I believe. 55 to 65, if I'm correct. But anyway, yeah, really, really interesting engine to have on display. I'd say it's probably quite rare now. I mean, they were dismantled probably. The majority of them probably in late 60s, probably. Cause I keep saying probably, because I don't really know. But yeah, there you go. Pretty interesting little photograph there for you. And here we have probably my favourite thing at the museum, the RB211-22B. Now, obviously the 22B, I'm not entirely sure what that means. I think it means it's for a Boeing. So it might be, I think this engine specifically is probably for a 767. Though, the RB211 was known, or I guess seen to go on the Boeing 767, the Boeing 747, which it could have easily gone on as well, and the L-1011 TriStar, and even in some rare circumstances the Tu-204, which was obviously a Soviet aircraft. That was very interesting, probably post-Soviet application there. But anyway, yeah, the RB211 was a very, very interesting engine. It went and fit on a lot of types, obviously I said from the Tu-204 to the L-1011 TriStar. And, the RB211, I'm pretty sure was under development at the time of the TriStar's development. And the TriStar, it almost got cancelled, it almost failed, almost tanked Lockheed, because the RB211 was a delayed project. They couldn't get enough of them to go on the planes they were producing, and they couldn't get them quick enough because they weren't producing them at the time Lockheed needed them. Really interesting story, actually. I suggest you watch the Mustard, I think his name is. He made like an animated video about the TriStar. That's the YouTube channel name, by the way. It's not just like a pile of mustard. I mean, that's his YouTube channel, Mustard. He made a video about the L-1011 and how it should have been more popular than the DC-10. And to be honest with you, it's probably one of my favourite aircraft of all time. I just love the L-1011 TriStar. In these images that are popping up now, there's a model of them, model of one. When I saw that, I was just like, can I take that home? And like, unfortunately not. I was like, damn it. But yeah, awesome engine onto awesome planes. And obviously I've barely even talked about the Queen of the Skies jumbo jet, but yeah, it's really, really, really awesome experience to see that in that museum, because I'd heard so much about that engine, heard the stories, and then obviously when I saw the TriStar, I was just like, oh, this is great. I get to miss a whole week of school to come in and see the TriStar and the RV211, count me in. Yeah, it was awesome. And obviously when I was here, I didn't just see the museum. I saw, I went through all the production. I went to the shop floor. I saw the XWB assembly. I saw that they're assembling Trent 900s, bringing in some A380 engines for repairs. I saw A340 engines coming in. And A330. I saw tons and tons of engines coming in and out. And I was talking to them, some guy in charge, I think he's in charge of production, who was telling me that they're trying to get like 2 out a day or something now. I can't remember what it was, but they're producing them quick. Considering Rolls Royce really specialises in wide body airliners now, the demand must be huge. They used to kind of do smaller engines, but now obviously I seeing that they're wide body engine producers. CFM have dominated that market now. They provide for the A320neos. Well, half of it, Pratt & Whitney's provide the other, but I suspect they won't be providing for much longer, considering the crisis they're in. Anyway, that's another subject for another video. But yeah, so Rolls Royce, they don't produce small engines anymore, so that time frame for such large engines are massive. I wonder if they can do it. Only time will tell. But yeah. And here is why I could not decide what my favourite engine was. And obviously, a lot of people don't really know engines by name, but I can tell you right now, the Olympus 593 wasn't just any old engine. It was the engine that went on the Concorde. That's right, the Concorde engine. The Olympus 593. I felt so lucky to see that. The Concorde is. Even people who don't know aviation, they know what the Concorde is. Probably one of the most famous aircraft of all time, if not the most favourite aircraft of all time. Well, not favourite, famous. Probably the favourite as well. Anyone who was lucky enough to go on one loved it, loved the experience. I would have loved to have gone on it. Obviously, maybe, who knows what will happen in the future, but yeah, I definitely need to go and see one at some point. There's plenty out there. Maybe I'll make a trip down to Manchester. Get to see the one at Manchester Airport, the one at Heathrow. Maybe do a video. Yeah, but the Concorde, I just love that plane so much. And I felt so privileged to see that engine. It's so awesome. I urge you, if you can, come to this museum. It's just great. But yeah, on to the next engine. As much as I'd love to sit here and talk about the Concorde for ages, because obviously I don't know a lot about the engines, right? But I know a ton about the planes, because I'm not an engineer. I didn't work on it, so there's only so much you can talk about engines. It's the planes, the engines are iconic. Yeah, obviously, they're the thing that powered the beast. So, they deserve their own little spotlight. But I wish I knew more about them, so I could talk about it, you know what I mean? But anyway, yeah, on to the next one. So I took a photo of this this area. I thought it was a really cool area. Airbus A340 there, also one of my favourite aircraft. When I look at planes, I just cannot decide what my favourite aircraft is. Every single plane I look at, I just love. Obviously, I have a soft spot for the older aircraft. The gas guzzling, that kind of era. But the A340 is relatively new, and the A380. I love them as well. The A380 is one of the planes I've been on the most, and it's genuinely, it's such an experience. The A380, when the A380 gets retired, I mean, it'll be, it'll have the same, probably not as big a legacy as the Concorde, obviously, but, it'll be kind of like, oh, well, those people were really lucky to get to travel on the A380, and I think it's the same. Obviously, the Concorde had a lot more of an exclusivity to it. It was an expensive plane to travel on, but at the same time, I mean, you could have travelled on the Concorde for 30 years, and, at the minute, the A380's only been in service, like, for about 15, 16 years. So, yeah, I mean, I'm lucky to have gone on the A380, and I count, my blessings that I have been lucky to go on that plane, that beautiful plane. But, one day, don't know when, but I'm sure it's going to be retired, and the people who didn't get to go on it will be thinking that they missed out. So, mark my words, that's what will happen. Right, don't know how long the airlines will keep the A380 going, probably decades more, because capacity's increasing and they don't have the planes to fill the capacity. So, all these airlines like Air France, that jumped on the retire all your big jets bandwagon nonsense, are regretting it now because, you can only fit so many people on A321LR, Aer Lingus, cough cough. Why'd you get rid of your jumbos, guys? I mean, I know they're really old, they would have retired them anyway, but, there's only so much you can do with them aircraft, guys, Airbus, they shouldn't have stopped the A380 aircraft program. I'm rambling on here, I could talk for ages and ages and ages. I mean, I know the A380 program didn't make a profit, but I feel like in the future, an A380neo could just be, maybe just make it a tri-jet, they don't need 4 engines. You gotta re-engineer it, make it a tri-jet, do something. Bring it back though, please. I mean, what's the point in even trying to decide what my favourite plane is? Because I look at the 777-200, and I've flown on that plane loads of times as well, and I just can't, that trip I had, like, you just can't decide. I know some people are really black and white what their favourite planes are, but, I can tell you what planes I don't like, but, no one wants to hear that. So, I took that photo, I just saw the 777, I was like, right, we've got to get that. And there are some other engines coming up as well. I think there's an XWB coming up. But yeah, thought that was a really cool model that I also wanted, as well as the 747 and the L1011. Don't know whether you see this monster here, but here's the big XWB engine that goes on the A350. I believe it goes on the A350 900 and 1000. I'm not sure whether it goes on the 1000 or not. But anyway, yeah, gargantuan engine, and I saw about probably 10 being produced on the shop floor. When I was doing some rounds, awesome engine, I'd love to go on an A350. I haven't had the chance to go on one yet, but I'm sure it's a great engine to fly and experience. It's really big. You don't really think, like, obviously engines, planes are big. We all know that, right? But you can't physically imagine scale, like, properly. As humans, you can't really imagine scale properly. You can try, but until you see it, you can't. An A380, I know it is big, but until I stand right next to it, I'll have no idea how it feels to stand next to it, if that makes sense. Anyway, yeah, huge engine. We're starting to come to an end here. There's a few more photos left, but, if you've managed to sit through my rambles for 20, I don't know how long we've been going now. Probably won't be going for half an hour this video, but, or 26 minutes I think it's been so far. Good on you. Alright, here we have the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. Obviously, some people, this is their favourite plane, I can't disagree with them. I feel like this video has just turned into a favourite plane ranking. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to show off my photographs. But anyway, yeah, I saw those two models and I was just like, well, I want to take them home as well. I'm gonna have to get a van to get all these model planes home. But no, that Dreamliner was a really cool model as well. I'm assuming it was probably there. It's probably there 15 years now, ever since they announced the Dreamliner. Obviously, Rolls Royce have had their issues with the Dreamliner production. Not production, sorry. I believe it was probably about 5 years ago now. Trent the Trent engines they put on the Dreamliners, they started cracking, and they had to ground, hundreds of them. Not hundreds, probably dozens. I don't know how many there were. There were quite a few they had to ground. The ones with the Trent engines on them. And they had to fix the problem. Big issue. You don't want your engine blades cracking. In 2019, I was due to fly on a Norwegian Dreamliner, and we got our aircraft changed because plane waiting for maintenance because the engine blades were cracking. Got put on a 777-200LR, which was an experience, and I'll definitely make a video about that experience. It was something else, let's just say that. But yeah, other than that, Dreamliner, awesome plane. So here is a model of the Ultrafan, that's what it's called. Sorry, the name for it escaped me there. The Ultrafan, which is Rolls Royce's new experimental engine that they're currently working on. I have more images, as I said, of that coming up. This, I believe it's to scale. Well, it might be what you might have said 1 to 2. scale of the engine. The design of the Ultrafan is that it's meant to be applicable to all aircraft types, but it's an engine that's apparently, I think it was, I can't remember, it was something crazy more efficient, that could really revolutionise the airline industry. Obviously, you know, with the SAF, which, by the way, if I had taken photos of that, they have huge tanks containing SAF on site, which I'm assuming they use testing, see how engines, you know, how certain engines run on SAF as well as A1. But anyway, yeah, the Ultrafan, you know, it's probably going to be, if it comes to fruition, probably going to be an ultra revolutionary engine. But yeah, pretty awesome to see that that model. But you know, I actually went up close to the real one. I was touching it and everything. Probably shouldn't have been, but I was. Awesome. I've got some photos of that coming up as well. So yeah, not the last we'll hear of it in this video. So another model here for you. Here is the first Rolls Royce, I guess, concept. It is a thing. It's a real plane. It's been flown before. But this is just a model version of it. Of a electric aircraft, electric plane, engine, and I believe the fuselage and like the systems and stuff were made in combination with another company. I can't remember. Might have been all Rolls Royce, I'm not entirely sure. But I know Rolls Royce definitely had a big part to play in it, considering it is painted in the Rolls Royce livery. Anyway, yeah, pretty cool model. Obviously, probably can't take that home. Don't know where I'd fit that. But you know, yeah, pretty awesome. They did used to have the original one in there, but I believe it's in East Midlands Airport as well, along with the Spitfire. But yeah, interesting thing to see there. Now, this wasn't in the museum, but rather outside the museum. Interesting story to this. If you can tell by the mosaic, it's a stained glass window. Of the old site. It is, I guess, the old site. It's the current site right now where Rolls Royce is based. But obviously, it looks a lot more different. I believe it was gifted by the UK government to Rolls Royce, for their contribution to the war effort. And if you can see, you know, it's got an RAF, soldier on it. I guess what you say, RAF pilot. I don't really know how you'd regard that. And obviously there's the RAF Eagle, and there's the sun, and then you can see the roofs of the old Rolls Royce factory production lines of the Merlin. I just thought it was a really nice image, really nice thing to take, and I thought I'd show you it because it is really nice. Little mosaic stained glass window. And here's the man of the hour, the Ultrafan, from Testbed 80. This Ultrafan is, you know, huge, and I was talking about it earlier. It's really cool. On one of the days, I was with, I believe, I can't remember what it was now. I think it was the frequency people, the people who test things for frequency. And if you don't know what I mean by that, effectively, all objects have a natural frequency, and a natural frequency is kind of how it moves, right? Frequency. I'm saying frequency like that. Don't know why I'm saying it like that. It's 1:30 in the morning. Natural frequency. But effectively, everything moves in its own natural frequency. So if you see a bridge swaying, right? Okay, that's kind of, you know, don't know how to say it. You know, it's kind of engineered to not sway so much. Like, I don't know how to explain it. You're gonna have to kind of look it up yourself, but because I didn't really listen, I was just looking at the planes and the engines and stuff. But it was, you know, and it was also some months ago. You know, if I had shot this video, you know, after that day, I would have been able to explain it to you. But, you know, search up is really interesting. I didn't, when I heard, oh, you're going to do natural frequency, I was like, oh, don't really know what that is. But when I got out of it, I think it was probably the most interesting one there, other than, you know, obviously the tours and stuff like that. But, you know, I thought it was a really interesting job to have. And with those people, we went up to the engine and we began testing certain components. their natural frequencies, because obviously the engine, when it starts, right, it vibrates everything in it, right? And if that component breaks its natural frequency, it breaks, right? And you don't want components breaking an engine, let's just say that, right? So yeah, pretty cool experience to be able to go in there. Yeah, I can't wait to see it on aircraft. I mean, the blue paint, don't really know what's going on there. I'm assuming it's kind of like a thing where, airlines can kind of brand it, Aer Lingus can get a green one and Virgin Atlantic can get a red one, blah, 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 blah. I'd rather not, I'd rather just have the black, but we'll see what happens. Maybe it might grow on me when they get released, who knows. But if you can tell, my voice is deteriorating massively, because I've been speaking for ages, so, I felt like I wanted to do this, and I have, and now I'm beginning to regret it, but it's almost coming to the end now, so it's fine. So here's the last image I'm going to show you today, purely because I've got so many, this video would go on for hours if I just talked about every single image I took. But this was during the first test. I believe it cranked it up to full power. The first test, we were allowed it. Luckily, I was so lucky to be in here when they were testing it. But it was the first time the engine was cranked up to full power, effectively. So that was a really cool experience, to be there. Maybe one day I'll fly it and I'll tell the story. I was there when they were testing that. Pretty awesome thing to see. But yeah. Thank you for watching if you're here. Thank you for listening to my rambles. Obviously, a little bit different to what I'm usually doing. There'll be more Microsoft Flight Simulator coming on the way. Promise. I just bought the PMDG 737-800, and I've been learning it and writing checklists and stuff like that. So the first flight we do goes smoothly. But some point over the next few weeks, obviously, I'm going to be going back to school and I've got some more exams, so the content will be slowing down again. I'm really sorry about that. That's just, I'm in year 11, it's GCSE year, there's not a lot I can do about that. So, yeah, I'm going to prioritise school over YouTube channel, sorry, but that's just how it's going to work, unfortunately. So, yeah, thank you for watching, if you are here. And if you do want to do this, I'm assuming it's probably on the website. And I'm assuming you probably have to live near the facility to be able to do it. I mean, they might do it in America, because the Rolls Royce have some sites in America. Same with in like Cardiff, I think it might be Cardiff in Wales. I'm not sure. But yeah, thank you for watching. If you did like the video, leave a like. And comment. If you have anything to say or any corrections, because I'm sure there will be. And yeah, see you later.